Hello, bowling fans. This is Dustin J. Markowitz coming to you taped, as always, from the gem along the Colorado River, Laughlin, Nevada, bringing you yet another edition of your favorite bowling show, Bowling Evolved. Now, obviously, this is a very special show because instead of being on radio, we are now live and in color on video. And joining me, as always, is the one and only phenomenal, fantastic millionaire from the PBA Tour, multi-time champion.
Millionaire.
Yeah, it sounds good, right?
Wow, I like that.
One of the greatest left-handers in PBA Tour history. Not much of a right-hander. I don't know why. It's kind of strange.
I write with my right hand.
Well, then it's just weird. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Eric Forkel. Eric, how you doing tonight?
Happy New Year, buddy. How are you?
Happy New Year. Very good. Happy birthday to me, too, by the time the show goes up.
17, 18? Oh.
I'll be 19. No.
Very good.
27 years old. I'm getting old.
Wow. 27. I've got children your age, but that's okay. That's another story.
Well, as I said, this is a very special edition of our show, the very first time we've ever done video for the regular show other than when we were at the World Series. And obviously, coming into the new year, there's going to be a lot of changes for Bowling Evolved, and this is going to be one of the first ones. So, I mean, how does it feel being live and in living color for our audience at home?
It is scary. It's scary for me. I'm sure it's scary for them. But, yeah, video is kind of something different. We've not done that all year, and we're going to start the new year off with video.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny, one of the biggest requests we've had, as you well know, is that people want to see more videos of us doing ball reviews and things of that nature, which I'm proud to say that this new year is going to be a grand reopening, so to speak, for Bowling Evolved. A lot of new things coming along. I mean, of course, we have our tournament we're running here in February, the Proprietors Cup satellite event, the Laughlin Cup at Riverside Lanes here in Laughlin. But we're going to be encompassing a lot more of the bowling world. We have a few writers coming on here. Starting in the middle of January, we're going to have John Baker, who is a jet bowling representative, formerly of Above180.com, as well as Brian Hirsch, who's another Motive rep, also formerly of Above180.com. So, you know, they're going to have their articles. Billy Eiselt, who owns the Proprietors Cup and Mega Buck Promotions, he's going to be doing an article for us now. And I think this is really neat. I think we really have an opportunity to really start getting into more of the bowling world.
So you could really say that our bowling is evolving.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that's what we're here to do. We're here to try to evolve the sport and/or game of bowling.
Well, here we go again. But why not? The first show of the year.
Hey,
why
look,
not?
I don't want to upset any of the professionals out there. I'm going to say it's a sport for now. Okay.
Well, you know, and that's something that's kind of funny too. I mean, when we did our first video shoots from the World Series, obviously there was a lot of feedback, and some people a little bit more vocal than others about the sport versus game controversy, so to speak. But you know, I think that's what's making our show fun. I mean, we have continued to look at all the different sides of it, and I'm so happy to say we've had, you know, some wonderful people from the industry helping us with the show. And to all of our listeners and now our watchers, thank you very much for helping us make the show come true.
Well, like I said, and I mentioned it before, I do think there's two sides of it. Of course, I think there's a sport of bowling as well, but I also think there's a game and a recreational side also. So there's it's not just one thing, and that's hopefully we'll be able to cover more of that this year to try to get both sides of it, because it's not just one. And, you know, I bowled for a living for 15 years. I have nothing but respect for all the professionals who bowl for a living. And, of course, when you're out there, you really do feel that it's a sport. But on the aspect of just the average people who just bowl and have fun and recreational, I don't think they look at it as a sport. I think they look at it as something fun to do, and on the recreational side. So I think there's two sides of it, and I will keep saying that, because I know certain people want to say the sport of bowling, but I like to think of it as a very challenging game.
Well, and you know, there's been so many arguments that go back and forth, of course.
Of course.
You know, but I'll tell you, our guest tonight, who someone I know very well, as a matter of fact,
I would hope so, yes.
has a very interesting outlook on this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome a gentleman that I know is my father, Director of Bowling Operations for the Riverside Lanes Bowling Center here in Laughlin, Nevada. Also hosted the largest women's professional bowling tournament purse-wise, the 2001 U.S. Open. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Brian Markowitz. Come on in.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
There you go.
Pleasure to be on your show.
Oh, we let anybody on, so why not?
Obviously, you know, you have a lot of experience in the bowling world. Hammer representative as well. I should mention that. Hammer staffer. Tell us a little bit about what's going on right now in the world of the Riverside, and as a proprietor in today's economy. How's the bowling world?
Well, the bowling world here is fine. in the proprietor, as far as being a proprietor. Okay, the bowling world's doing very well. We're pretty much, as league bowlers go, we're pretty much the same as last year. We have about 1,200 league bowlers for a 32-lane house. That's good. Lineage is good. The recreational side's good. So everything's good. But we understand the sport a little better here and the recreational side a little better here than most places in the country. So that has a lot to do with it. We look at our bowlers like, I guess we could call it, let's say, a poor man's country club. That's how it is. It's the best line I can give you. We look at our bowlers as a member of our country club. They're a member of our community, and we treat them as such. And I believe that's what keeps our positive and good clientele coming back to us.
So we had talked a lot about the recreational side versus the league side, the sports side of it. And from your perspective, I mean, do you think bowling has suffered at all as the years have gone on, going from more of a focus on the sport to the recreational side, or do you think there's still enough viability in both sides of it?
I believe there's viability in both sides of it, but the thing that we were having discussions earlier before the show about what we were going to talk about. The biggest problem we have in the nation right now is not that bowling has declined as a sport or as a recreation, is that we have a lack of places to do it. And that's part of the problem throughout the nation. Using statistics I received from the USBC, in 1992, there were approximately 7,200 sanctioned bowling centers in the U.S. As of today, going into 2013, we have roughly a little under 5,100. So if you take a look at the fact that just in 20 years, we've shrunk 2,000 bowling centers across the country, it's very difficult to make a sport grow when there's no places to do it.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does make sense. I guess the question I would have, though, is why did these centers close to begin with, though?
Well, a lot of it was real estate. There was booms throughout the industry. A good example is there was a place called Riverside Lanes down in Orange County area of California. There's a good example. There was a huge bowling center, 60-lane bowling center, thriving, making money. Okay, yet the car dealership that was directly across the street from it needed that land to create a new car dealership. So they offered the people that owned it a huge amount of money to take over that thriving bowling center. Well, you lost 7,000 league bowlers in one swoop, and the people don't have any place to go to recreate or to go to participate. And every other center is a long distance away. So what you've lost, and we've lost a lot of that in mom and pop areas, where centers they're older, they closed down, they couldn't get the money at the time to fix those centers up, so those centers have closed. If you took an average of like 850 league bowlers alone, not including the recreational bowlers, you lost a lot of bowlers out of those 2,000 centers. And I believe, I don't have the exact numbers, but they lost pretty close to that same amount in the 20 years prior. So when you went from 1970, when bowling was running down from its heyday, centers were starting to decline. They weren't replacing them. So if you've lost, let's say, 3,000-4,000 centers in the last 40 years, that is what leads to a decline of a sport or a recreation, not the fact that people don't want to do it. There's no place to do it.
Yeah, like I said, that obviously makes sense. You got to have a venue to play in. If you don't have venues, you have less places to play.
Right.
And people don't want to travel. And like you mentioned earlier, they want to go for a birthday party. They want to go 10 minutes away. They don't want to go an hour away.
Absolutely. And another factor, and I'm not going to mince words because I'm not that type of person, but I'll tell you guys point blank. When a bowler comes in, and everybody's just as guilty, they want to have a beer sometimes when they're recreational bowling, okay? Or a mixed drink or whatever they want, along with their hot dog or whatever else. It's like any other sport. And the bottom line is you don't have that ability to capture those bowlers when they have to drive an hour, and they don't want to drive after drinking 3 or 4 beers. They don't want to drive drunk or drive intoxicated. The penalties are extremely high. So you've got a situation of you need local bowling centers, and they have dried up.
Well, okay, now on that train of thought, now obviously your bowling center is doing quite well. I know at one time the Riverside Lanes was, I believe, the busiest bowling center in the nation for house of its size for games bowled per lane. Is that correct?
That's correct.
coming into 2013, what's Riverside Lanes doing differently than, say, a lot of other centers? What events are you going to be hosting, and what's basically on tap, for lack of a better word, for Riverside Lanes?
Well, what we do is we're very aggressive in doing programs, and for our league, if we're talking about our league bowlers, we're very aggressive in doing programs and tournaments, local tournaments for our league bowlers to keep them interested in bowling. And that's a very interesting thing. And we keep the price down for them in those tournaments. So as an example, I found that there's a magic level in the bowling industry for a tournament. If you can keep that tournament on a local level, I'm talking about $20 or under, these people will participate in the tournament. They have to be able to find things that fit inside their budget. And that's part of what's going on. We all know what the economy is like right now, what's happening out there. We need to purvey something that those people that are participating in your center, give them a chance to do things with your center that they can afford to do. If you do things they can't afford to do, they're not going to come.
Sure. Well, that makes a lot of sense. I also know, I mean, obviously you have also tapped into, trying to get back to the sports side of things. I know you're hosting our tournament, the Laughlin Cup.
Absolutely.
What's your thought on that, on groups like the Proprietors Cup that are trying to resurrect scratch bowling? Do you think that's a way to go, or?
It's definitely a way to go. You have to be able to balance everything. This is Eric's favorite line: balance is very good, and he's right, because balance is very important. And we have to try to balance everything. You have to balance your recreational side. Yeah, and you have to balance the sports side on the other side. So you have to try to give everybody an opportunity to do those things. And sometimes, from the bowling center's point of view, they don't like to do that because it will cost them a little bit of money to bring in that sports side of it, because they lose a little bit of the recreational side. Well, you need both, because those bowlers that are up and coming, let's say you get a 150, 160 average bowler, and he's upcoming, he needs to come in and watch Eric play. He needs to come in and watch you play. He needs to come in and see you guys. They need something to aspire to. And if they don't have that to aspire, they're never going to keep their interest, their juices flowing in the sport.
I always thought, growing up as a kid, that was the whole reason why I watched the professional bowlers on TV, was to watch. It was something to aspire to be. I always thought it'd be cool to try to make a living throwing a bowling ball.
Absolutely.
Fortunately, I did have that opportunity, and you would hope that you can create stuff like that with something like the Proprietors Cup and other things that we're going to try to be involved with to help have people aspire to move on in scratch bowling. I mean, the handicap side and the recreational side is fine, but you have to have that balance, of course. And especially from a proprietor, you want a busy center. You want people in the center. You want people eating. You want people drinking. So, you need the lanes busy, and hopefully one can feed off the other.
Well, Eric, to answer that, a good way to answer that is when I have even a semi-professional event in here or a professional event in here, when they come in, the bowlers see it, my open play goes through the roof the following next 2-3 weeks, because they are coming in to see those guys, and they want to be them. They want to be like Mike, that story. That's what they want to do. So you need that balance. You need to bring them to you and to the sport, and give them something to aspire to. That's a really good thing, and that's what you need. The other end of the sport that really gets ignored, unfortunately, I believe, even though USBC is trying to do a good job of bringing it back, is the junior program. And on that note, we have an outstanding junior program here. I have, for a small town, this is a small town, we have over 100 plus kids in our junior program. And that doesn't sound like a whole lot of kids if you live in Los Angeles, but if you live in a town, this town's usually under 100,000 population, that's a lot of kids. And that junior program continues to feed my adult program. So.
We had mentioned on the show before, I know you recently lost Molly Bradley. We had talked about her, fantastic youth coordinator from Southern California, then out here. And, she had always had that mentality of grooming the bowlers. And I know as a product of the youth program myself, Eric, as you said, I grew up watching the better bowlers. And I had the opportunity with a lot of, not even necessarily the pros, but just the scratch bowlers in my local centers. A lot of those guys were willing to take the time to come down to the youth programs and show the kids or talk to the kids. It makes me sad, because even today, you don't see, at least from my perspective, you don't see as many of the scratch bowlers doing that anymore. At least I don't think so. I don't know if it's a matter of...
Well, I don't know.
I
Obviously the scratch bowling is not what it used to be. You have far less scratch bowling. You have far less scratch tournaments. It's not as abundant as it was, say, back in the 80s and the 90s. So you've got less, you're going to see less. And then obviously the PBA, unfortunately they're not live on TV anymore. They're not on for a long period of time. The season has changed somewhat. People don't tune it in every Saturday as the prelude to ABC Sports. It's changed a lot, okay? Because obviously the sports world, the internet and everything else, sports is all over the place. Bowling is in a small slot right now.
I don't really agree with you, Eric. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Here's what it is. If you look at the statistics, and I believe I'm correct about this, bowling is the #1 most DVR'd sport because of its time slot. Its time slot's actually good. It's actually up against football, and up against football, there has to be something up against football that is going to that's going to be second. What's going to be #2? Okay, so that means from the PBA's standpoint, they can get that time slot at a better price, which is a good thing for them. The other thing is that, they still have the most viewed TV show up against football of people that are not watching football. Plus, they have the most DVR'd and VCR'd TV show that's out there. It beats everything other than, I believe, Dancing with the Stars or something like that. But you look at it, they've got a great. They're actually doing a good job on that respect. Okay. I obviously don't agree with everything the PBA does. No one of us do. But
I guess. Okay, it's just disappointing that they don't have the live shows anymore. And I feel the reason why they don't have the live shows is because they've got to shoot all these shows in one venue to save money. Well, if they were creating a certain amount of revenue, then they could do it the way they used to do it, and they had the sponsors like they used to. Then it could be a live show every week anymore. So that's the sad part, that they don't do that. And you had your winter schedule and your fall and your summer and your spring. You had actually a year to view it at. Now you see, matter of fact, the stuff they see now, that was done a month ago.
I understand that. I also know this, okay?
I just have a problem with stuff that's not live. If I'm a fan of any sport, I want to watch it live.
Well, the question I bring up too, real quick.
That's my biggest pet peeve.
Well, and this brings up an interesting point. When we had Tom Clark on the show, obviously he talked about a lot of the, which was a fantastic guest and a lot of what was going on.
Right.
But I have to also question, can they do live shows when they're in foreign countries now, like they used to?
Well, they did that. They brought in that other tour to try to make this
World
tour.
Bowling Tour.
Yeah, they try and put it to make it more, valuable, or make it larger, or make it look more interesting. I don't know. They brought them in to try to maybe create a world tour, so to speak, which again, a little challenging to make the travel over there, I think. If you're here, it's kind of hard to drive over there. I think it makes it a little more difficult for guys to play. To follow, if I wanted to follow the tour, if we go back 10, 15 years and you want to follow the tour all year, you don't have to worry about driving to Europe or flying to Europe and going through all that, or even in the Middle East or Asia. I think that's a lot for the average person, the average guy who wants to try to make his mark out on tour. Back in the old days, you filled up the car, you went, you loaded up, and you traveled around.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've made it easier. I actually think it's become more difficult. I understand the global reasons why they're doing it, but I think it's more difficult.
Well, I agree. I think the international flavor has, it's helped in that it has made it if you want to call it a global phenomenon, if you will.
Okay.
Does it necessarily mean it's easier to bowl them? No. The question I would have about the World Bowlers Tour is the World Bowlers Tour putting together the same amount of production costs that the PBA does, or is the PBA attempting to do it all themselves?
Well, I don't know that they film any of them. I don't know if they have. Maybe they have it on TV over there in Europe, but I know that they had a couple of there. I never see it on TV unless you go to the internet, maybe.
Okay, well, let me tell you this much, guys. Okay,
You know.
having been to Europe, I can tell you that the television and sports in Europe is not what we have here. So our variety of sports, and this is another thing you talked about, bowling's popularity on TV. The variety and the amount of sports that we have in the United States is so far advanced compared to what they have there.
I'm sure.
It's like, you go to England, man, soccer's the #1 sport there.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
After that, tennis, maybe track and field. It's so different compared to what we have here. They have, actually the South American countries, Mexico, they have more sports available to them because they're a little more Americanized than the other countries. That's why we're playing football in London. That's why we're doing things in different countries, because they want our sports. ESPN is huge over there because they want our sports. So, you know what? I think the PBA is on the right track. I really do. I think they should be importing us or exporting our sports to them. They need to export our sports to them. Let it become popular in Qatar or whatever place, like Qatar, whatever it's going to call that. Let it become more popular in England. Let it become more popular. The more popular it is, the more Americanized those people get, the better off we are, because their dollars, or in their case their pound or whatever it is just as good for us as it is here. You know what? If you go bowl a tournament and it's sponsored by a British company and they want to put their money in and put money up for you to bowl, amen, brother.
Well, it's definitely a good way to look at it. Yeah, I mean, it is a way to look at it. I don't know if it's... I mean, as we've said 100 times, we wish them the most success in the world. I mean, we hope it works. I did notice we are closing in on our first break here. Before we let you go, so anything you want to plug coming up at the Riverside? Or
Of course, your Proprietors Cup thing coming up. I've got a Super Bowl tournament coming up. I've got so much stuff here. Of course, if you want to see what's going on at the Riverside, it's www.bowllaughlin.com. You can see all our tournaments coming up. Check on Bowling Evolved, of course. Bowling Evolved is going to be growing exponentially here in the new year. And thank you guys for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, stick around. When we come back, a little bit more, some ball reviews, and a whole bunch of just everything bowling right here after this. Welcome back, bowling fans. Really been a fantastic little show so far. Kind of unique being on the video side of things. It's weird. We're actually watching ourselves on the monitor as we're talking to our audience.
It is scary. It's scary for me. I know it's scary for them, but this is the best we got.
Yeah. Fantastic having my dad on the show. You know, it's growing up in a bowling family like I was. It's really great to see his perspective. You know, he's raised 4 centers from the ground, and he's had an opportunity to really be in every side of the sport. And you know, a lot of my knowledge has come from my parents. My mom, of course, ran a pro shop for 15 years. It's been really nice to have that sort of background. But I don't know. I think he's right. You know, if you don't have a place to bowl, as we said, how can you bowl?
Yeah, I never did look at it from that perspective. I've just heard through the years that the numbers have gone down, less people are bowling, and I always felt it was because of the economy, this and that. But it's true. If you have less venues, you're going to have less places to go, and people don't want to travel as far, and it will cut down your membership. And that's been the shrinking industry, like we like to discuss it as. I keep hoping that it's going to turn around and start growing and going the other way, and maybe we can help in that department. Maybe we can do something there.
Well, that's what this is all about. We're trying to be the future, the past, and the present of bowling. I mean, that's what Bowling Evolved has been from the beginning, and
yes.
Our fans seem to embrace that. The 5 or how many do we say we have? 4 or 5 that we have.
I think it's about 7 or 8 by now.
No.
Moving up.
Also, before I forget, happy anniversary to my dad. I know I didn't have a chance to say that, but anniversary is coming up. But anyway, moving on. Speaking of Bowling Evolved, with what we're doing, we had talked about the ball reviews, and today was the first day you and I had a chance to go out on the lanes, and we had an opportunity to throw some of the new equipment from both Motive and Storm.
Correct. I had a chance today to throw the IQ Tour Pearl, which is an excellent, strong pearl bowling ball, symmetrical. And I also had a chance to throw the Lucid, which is another excellent piece that Storm has just come out with. The companies come out with balls all the time, and I know they've got some more coming as well, but I had a chance to throw them, and as you will see, they roll very well. And they both have their place out there on the condition, and they're terrific. They hit great, and they roll great, and what can I say? Big yes. What can I say?
By the way, for the videos that we are putting out, they will be on bowlingevolved.com. You will have a separate section. You'll have some clips as we're doing the show tonight. Mm-hmm. But I had a chance to bowl myself. Had a chance to throw the new Raptor Talon, which is a asymmetrical ball. Very strong. I was pleasantly surprised at the mid lane read and the finish. Even on the regular house shot, it was a lot of times you see with those kind of balls that real over under read, and I didn't really have that. I did have a more aggressive drill on it, of course, but I think, and once you see the video, I think the audience will see a little bit of what that ball can do on the house condition. Also through the Venom Strike, which I've talked about on the show previously a little bit, you'll have a better idea to see the difference between the two balls. Obviously, the Venom Strike is not quite as strong, also a dull finish, but not as strong as the Raptor Talon. But it was great. It's great throwing the stuff for Motive. Obviously, I got my bag here in the background. Our shameless plug there for the companies, I guess.
Like I said, the companies have good products. I've been fortunate enough to be with Storm for 14 years, and I think I'll be starting my 15th year coming up in January. And their stuff is fantastic. It really speaks for itself. But I've been a representative for them for all these years, and they just keep churning out one good one after the other. And of course, if it helps put a few dollars in your pocket, you got to keep throwing them.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to mention we had a great tip that you actually gave me out on the lanes. That's right. PBA Eric Forkel showed me how to bowl.
Just because I'm left-handed doesn't mean I don't know how to help anybody who's not left-handed, but that's another story.
Eric, why don't you relate that tip? Really fantastic about getting out of the ball a little cleaner and getting your fingers around the ball. Relate to our audience what you told me out there.
Well, all these bowling balls are really good. They're good. They're good tools, like anything else. If you don't use them properly, then they're not so great. But if you can learn to move your hand around the ball, all the top players, when I was out on tour, and even the guys nowadays, they all know how to work their hand through the ball, how to get more on the ball, a little less on the ball. Certain players just have a knack of putting a lot of stuff or revs on the ball, and other guys are really good at playing straighter, and they play to their strength. And take for somebody like a Norm Duke. Mm-hmm. Norm is actually really good at doing everything, but when you watch him now through the years, the more times you see him on TV, he's throwing the straighter shots. He's learned and he's adapted his game, and he's just fantastic at it. But the players, you always play to your strength, but to make these balls really work their best, you have to be able to move your hand around the ball. So when you want to get more on the ball, you rotate your hand around the ball more. When you want to get less, you kind of stay up the back of the ball and don't do as much. Let the ball do all the work. These balls are designed to hook. They're designed to curve. So for people who don't have a lot of hand action or revolutions, you go and buy a ball that does it for you. But the players who have a little wider arsenal and they want to be able to use the balls on other conditions, you have to learn to take your hand out of the ball and, of course, put your hand back in the ball, meaning put a little more on the ball or a little less. The balls will hit. The balls will hit well, especially Storm balls. They hit really well. What am I going to tell you? But, bowling balls in general, all the companies do a very good job. But you can learn to manipulate your hand like the top players do, and change your speeds. You could turn one ball into three, just like that.
Well, I know. I can definitely vouch. As we've talked about on the show before, I come off a pretty serious injury from last year that kept me out of bowling for quite a while. Only put about 40 games in for the entire year, which is probably
not enough.
No. For a guy that used to bowl 3 and 4 leagues a year, that's definitely, or 3 and 4 leagues a season, I should say, that's definitely a drastic change. But it's funny because, that tip is something that I have known, but I wasn't realizing I wasn't doing. And I think that's something else that to our audience at home, you can't physically see everything that you're doing right and wrong. No. It's always good to have someone, such as an Eric Forkel, for example, or someone that knows the game. I think that one of the biggest problems with coaching in general is that you might find people that claim they know about the sport, but they might not know your game or know enough about it to help you. And I think that's something that people need to keep an eye out for. Find a certified coach, find someone that obviously has the experience, and utilize that knowledge to help improve their own game.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good set of eyes, and if you can't get a hold of a coach, maybe you get yourself a good video camera and shoot some video, and if you have the ability to go home and watch it, you look at it, and it's hard to help yourself sometimes. It's always good to seek out a professional or a good instructor. There's just nothing about it. I was always hoping that bowling centers at one point would maybe have like house pros like they have in golf. If you go in golf, they've got the house pros there. or the course pros, but in bowling they never really went that direction. I was always kind of hoping that they would have done something like that back in the day. Maybe they could have established a place for the guys who bowl for a living, and then they could move into maybe being like a teaching pro somewhere. But they really don't have that, which I wish they did, obviously, because I definitely think there's a lot of guys who could really do some work in that area and could actually use the work in that area.
Absolutely. It's amazing because everyone wants to be a better bowler, but not everyone's willing to put the time in or get the right help to help them. And it's funny. It's funny how that works.
Yeah, like anything else, because you can go buy I can go buy a $300 golf club, and I don't know how to golf. So I can buy the greatest golf club in the world and go out there and just beat the ground to death and kill worms. I'm not gonna hit the ball the way I need to. You have to have somebody show you how to do it. So people can go to a pro shop and buy the top ranked equipment, but if you don't really know what to do with it, it's not the greatest thing in the world. You really need someone to show you. Then when you put the two together, now it's just unbelievable what happens, because they make bowling balls. Bowling balls nowadays do most of the work for you. They really do.
Well, that's going to take us into our second break of the show. When we come back, we'll have our conclusion and the finish for our first ever video version of Bowling Evolved. Stick around. I thought that sounded good.
Okay, that's fine. That's good.
That's perfect, as a matter of fact.
That works good.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. We're coming to our conclusion here, Eric, and I'll tell you, this has been a lot of fun. It's been interesting doing it live. I mean, I wish we had an opportunity to do this more often, but for our fans at home, let us know if is this something you'd like to see more of the video. We've talked about the possibility of using Skype. I mean, I don't know. I don't see a problem with that.
No, I think that would be great. And why wouldn't they want to see me? I don't know why they wouldn't. Why wouldn't they want to see me? That's right.
Your wife's in the audience. I think she rolled her eyes when you said that. Your wife, right?
Which one?
Oh, God.
First one, second one, third one?
I'm going to go with your current one.
Current one. There you go. How about my favorite one?
Your favorite.
There you go.
Good cover. Good cover.
I'll cover myself.
Well, once again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching our show. Again, it means a lot to us that you've been checking us out week in and week out. No, not yet. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. One thing at a time. I want to say, as you can tell in the background, we have this wonderful, wonderful jacket that was made, the Bowling Evolved Fleece Jacket. Something that hopefully we'll be offering on our website here shortly as our website continues to grow and the brand Bowling Evolved does grow. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? How that come to be?
Well, it was a Christmas gift, believe it or not. I was kind of surprised. At first I thought it was from my wife, but it wasn't. It was from her aunt. Sent it. It came all the way from New York. I want to say, what part of New York?
North Tonawanda.
North Tonawanda. I got to remember, North Tonawanda. And they took the logo and they put it together, and I don't know if the camera could see it. I don't know, but it's really cool. It's just got our logo on it, and I think that logo one day is going to be famous.
Maybe I can take it down. I can get a little closer to the camera here.
Yeah, just kind of.
As you guys can see.
And you can see the logo. There you go.
And circling around the globe there, bowling yesterday, bowling today, and bowling tomorrow. We are Bowling Evolved.
I think that logo is really cool, and this is going to be what we're all about. I think everyone needs to have a jacket like this. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. So what was mine?
Like I said, everyone who's anyone of importance would have a jacket like that. You want one too? I'll make a phone call, get you one. Don't
Just
worry.
throwing it out there.
I'll let you wear mine, but it has my name on the front, so I don't have to tell you.
Yeah, I throw it the right hand anyway, so it's just it'd be awkward.
I've watched you bowl. Don't brag. But anyways, we'll just keep that. We'll get you one.
All right, well,
I'll make a phone call. We'll get you one. Yeah. I'll have my secretary call their people, and we'll get you one.
We'll make it work. We'll make it work.
Well,
I'll tell you what, it is a very cool jacket. I want to take a quick second here and just thank everyone that's helped us with our show from last year. We've had a ton of great guests. Everyone from the PBA, Motive, of course, Hammer Bowling for having my dad on the show, Storm, obviously.
Storm for allowing me to be here, yes.
Yeah, Storm for Storm and Moto for sticking by us, even though we're terrible at what we do. I haven't quite figured that one out.
Well, we have
yet.
some plans maybe for Storm, so who knows?
Hopefully.
Storm may really like us down in the future. We'll find out.
But of course, all of our guests. I mean, we've had just wonderful, wonderful guests. Congratulations out to Scott Norm, by the way, whose show just aired, winning the.
Yes.
Winning
Scott's a great bowler. Good for him.
Yeah. And just all of our fans. Make sure you check us out at facebook.com/bowlinginvolved. On our website, of course, bowlinginvolved.com. On our YouTube account page, which you just search for Bowling Involved, and I'm sure you'll find us. And we have a Twitter now. I still haven't quite figured out what I'm doing with that yet, but
You tweet.
We tweet, yeah.
Like a bird.
Yeah.
Very good.
Special thank you to Tyler Hunsaker, by the way, our webmaster, for doing everything. Totally revamped the Bowling Involved site. I think it looks fantastic. And of course, all the people that have, I'm forgetting tons of people here that have been with us or on the show or helped us in some way. But ladies and gentlemen, check it all out. But for Eric Forkel, I've been Dustin J. Markowitz. Have a great night.
Good night. That goes crazy.